Gary, and leave out the bit about the rugby.
I was looking down to see could I bring and I just seen 2009 and I was like, we'll reintroduce that again.
A very good evening and welcome to all the viewers to the very first ever episode of the extended panel sports chat show in association with LiR Media. First of all, I suppose we'd like to extend our thanks to Pat and Mary of LiR for bringing us aboard and giving us the opportunity to put this show together. I for one am beyond excited for what we can do in the coming weeks and what's coming up over the duration of the hour each week. First and foremost, we're going to be talking sports, everything from GAA, soccer, rugby, you name it, we'll be chatting it. On top of that, we've also lined up a list of sports guests to come in each week just for a discussion with us. So we're very excited for that in the coming weeks. Coming up in today's show, find out all the latest on lockdown sports, travel back in time with us to a former moment of sporting glory, and take note as our well-read panellists draw up their versions of what teams they believe could give Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls The Last Dance a run for their money if given the funding to do an inside documentary. So without further ado, joining me here in our Make Juice studio, I have fellow classmates of mine. The common denominator between the four of us, you might say, is that we are all at present just after finishing our first year in the University of Limerick doing physical education teaching. For me personally, it was a great experience and honour, I suppose, to get to know these lads. We had great crack in the fantastic PES department in UL. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to the guys now for a brief discussion, just to introduce ourselves in our sporting backgrounds. First of all, I know we're joined by Jimmy Meagher. Jimmy, I know you've done a lot of work in the last couple of years, we'll say coaching teams and managing teams. You might let us know a bit about that, Jim?
Hey, Shucks, how's things? And good afternoon, and thanks very much for having us on the show here today. Really excited and looking forward to what we can put together over the next few weeks and months, but I've been involved myself with, I suppose my background would be coaching hurling, and would have been working for the GAA for a good few years there, and got the opportunity to work with some very good hurling teams, with Kilkenny and a couple of club teams then, we'd say in different counties as well. So big into the hurling, but also big into other sports as well. Enjoy a bit of rugby, enjoy the Gaelic football, and I suppose the stuff we want to talk about here today and cover over the next few weeks and months. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, big time. You were just seeing behind you, I think you've a photo hanging up, Jim, of, we'll say, is that the Kilkenny minor team. I know you were involved again with them this year. You've an interesting point to make on that one, I'd say, Jim, have you?
Well, Shucks, I didn't mention it now, but Paor spotted it there in the corner. And if you look at that picture there, Shucks, that's the 2014 Kenny All-Ireland minor winning team. We beat Limerick in the final that day, but we beat Paor's Waterford team in the semi-final. He was actually on to me wondering where the 2013 picture is.
Yeah. And that, Jim, I think we know where we're going to, who we're introducing next. A man with the fame of his namesake, Phil the Power Taylor. Wayne Power in the corner. You might have something to say on that 2013 minor All-Ireland.
I would. That 2013 was a great year, and it's convenient sometimes how certain games slip the mind of avid Kilkenny GAA fans with their extensive knowledge and I suppose success over the years. I mean, you can forget your little neighbours there sometimes, I suppose. But no, look, 2013 was a great year. That's just only a small little, I suppose, achievement maybe along the road within my coaching. I suppose similar to Jimmy, I've been involved with a lot of club teams, from cool camps and underage kids right up to senior clubs, same as Jimmy. So I suppose that's kind of my main background within the GAA. But I'd be a bit like Jimmy. I'd love most sports. I suppose it's a very difficult time where there isn't sport on to watch, but now we're in a position where we can sit around and have a discussion on various sports and what's happening in the world in different codes.
And I think I'm excited as well to get to draw a bit more on that later from you, Wayne, about, we'll say, how you're dealing with the lockdown and how you can deal with teams. And that I don't think there's much hurling in Sligo, but I know we have a Sligo man on the line. Last week I suppose the big name in the media was Conal Waldron from Normal People from Sligo, but I'm telling you from here forth, it'll be this man, Garry Hehir. Gary, you might just give us a bit of an insight into your own knowledge of sport and your own interest in it.
Yeah, cheers, Shucks. Rugby would be my biggest background now, and play a bit of rugby. But obviously, I've come back to UL in September to pursue a career in PE teaching. Mm-hmm. And obviously, I've met up with the guys, and we've been presented with this opportunity to do a bit of radio, which and talk about sport, which is quite.
And I suppose your two interests then, Gary, would be, I suppose, particularly soccer and rugby. Would they be? You're a big Liverpool fan, are you?
Yeah, big Liverpool fan. I was actually at the last game there just before the season ended, and so I wouldn't be too fussed if they cancelled the season and awarded the title to Liverpool.
But I'd say, in terms of rugby and stuff like that, I'm looking forward to getting a bit of your knowledge on that throughout the show, Gary. And I know we'll all be kind of coming in on top of each other and our viewpoints. But moving on with, I suppose, the next part of the show, discussing today, I suppose, the three wise men of sport, we could call ourselves here in front of me. We'll be discussing everything essentially on lockdown and sport in the first part, how it's affecting the games we love, and is there a light at the end of the tunnel at the end of the day? Can we see kind of a way out of all of this and when things will begin to get moving? So I'm going to open the floor, first of all, with the first section of the afternoon, I suppose, to Jimmy Meagher again, to come in maybe just and enlighten us, I suppose. I know we were talking there about the Kilkenny minors, Jimmy, and your own involvement. You might just, if you could, give us, maybe shine some light on the current situation on the GA front in lockdown. What it is that you as a coach will say even can be doing at this point, and even the scenario with the GA, Jim.
Yeah, sure. Look, Shucks, it's really, I suppose, the situation that we're doing with the minors with Kenny at the moment is basically up until the 12th of March, we would have been training 2-3 days a week. And from the government guidelines then of where the lockdown kicked in, we basically would have given players 2 to 3 sessions to do on their own midweek. We'd say working from home, getting a bit of hurling in, getting a bit of physical work in, getting a bit of strength and conditioning in. But they can only do so much, to be fair to the young lads. You know, it's like they're restricted at home, and like as I said, you can only do so much in the environment that you're living in. So to be fair, that's kind of where we're at. We'd say we're hopeful, like everyone else, that there will be hurling at the end of the year. Like if you see, John Kiley had a very good article in the Irish Examiner yesterday, and you had Liam Sheedy and David Fitzgerald in the media over the last couple of days, and John Horn last Sunday night on the Sunday game. And I suppose they're looking at the current situation, and like everybody wants to get back playing, but the message from everyone at the moment is that safety is their priority throughout this situation. Mm-hmm. People must be protected first and foremost, and like there'll be no return until it's safe to do so. And unfortunately, that's like ultimately we must follow the plan and see where it takes us. But right now, that's kind of where things are at,
And even at that stage, Jim, is what we're talking. If there is a return, which I suppose we'd all love to see as sport fans, is it going to be kind of closed door championship territory? Obviously.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Like, look, we'd all love to see a championship return at some stage. Like, people love our games, and watching the archive matches over the last couple of weeks, it's whetted your appetite for a championship, and you take for granted what you really have, because for the last couple of years, and for years gone by, like we've had some serious inter-county football and inter-county hurling championships, and I suppose like just this year it's different. It's the new normal, and we just have to get used to it. But like I'd miss the biggest thing I'd miss, Shucks, is going to the field, like going to the club field, just getting out, having a few pucks. Like there's nothing better than going down at this time of year. Like the speed of training, the quickness, the touch, the striking, everything is done so sharp, so fast. This is what you're training for. And like, I've been very lucky, as I said, with a couple of teams that have been involved in. Like, there was nothing better than going inside to Kieran's College, and you'd be working with a group of 30 players that have the one common goal, that was trying to make the Kilkenny team and get on the under 21 team or get on the minor team. But just the pace of training, and at this time of year, that's what it's all about. All that winter training you do is for playing championship in the middle of the summer, and there's nothing better than the
it's
ball
peak GA season, really. Peak GA season is what people are, and I think that's a big thing amongst, we'll say, GA fans at the minute. And I know a lot of GA fans are feeling let down that maybe the pitches are still closed, that people should be allowed to go in and have their few pucks with friends. But I think the general kind of consensus is that training can kind of resume in fours from the start and things, I think, in the next stage of the lockdown. So I suppose from that perspective, there is a bit of a light at the end of their tunnel. And would you yourself, Jimmy, would you like to see, a straight knockout championship? What would you like to see happen with it?
Look, I love to see a championship played this year. And the only championship that can be played this year, by the way things are at the moment, that if it's going to be in October, it's more likely going to be straight knockout. I think that'll be a serious championship. The ability of players and teams to do it when it counts and matters most in that championship environment. There'd be nothing better than that,
Even without a crowd environment, I suppose that fact that it is knockout as well will give the players that bit of a buzz and incentive.
Yeah, look, I know that behind closed doors, I know Liam Sheedy and Tommy Welsh, listened to him in the media the last couple of weeks, they're in favour of it, and I'd be in favour of it too, because, you'd love to just see a championship being played this summer, or even if it is October, some stage this year. I thought John Kiley's article in the Examiner was very interesting in that he thought inter-county would be back first before the club, and he gave some very good points on it. He spoke about the numbers are smaller and more manageable at inter-county, and that medical teams are in a constant, are in county setups on a constant basis, and you'd be able to monitor it a bit better. And as you said, Shucks, the smaller numbers, you'd be able to manage the smaller numbers and build that up over time,
Yeah, very interesting. I think we're all very hopeful, especially with Jay. I mean, it would give people something really to look forward to and to aim for, because I know there's a lot of players who are probably still training kind of at home and stuff. Just moving on from that, I'm going to bring Garry in here, taking it from the perspective of, we'll say, amateur players in the GA and comparing it to a bigger stage on a professional level, we'll say in soccer or even rugby, we'll say soccer in the Premier League, Garry. I mean, I know there's talks of the Bundesliga getting up and running again, and there seems to be a bit of movement, we'll say, on the professional front. You might just kind of shine a bit of light on how things are working there for us.
Yeah, well, the Bundesliga is returning this weekend, which is, for sports fans, football fans in particular, it's massive news. It'll give people something to watch over the weekend. They reckon there's going to be possibly around an estimated 1 billion people tuning in this weekend to watch the Bundesliga, which is absolutely staggering. But I suppose, the Premier League, they plan to get back by June the 12th, which is it realistic with the way England is at the moment? Possibly not, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
You have players like Troy Deeney, the Waterford captain. You have Danny Rose, Newcastle's defender, and Todd Cantwell, all against coming back. When you have professional players coming out to the media saying that they're not comfortable going back, it's going to cause a lot of problems within clubs, within the FA, within the PFA. So there's a lot of issues to be resolved, I suppose, before things get back and actually on the pitch playing in England anyway.
There seems to be a lot of kind of a split decision about how do you think, Gary, these teams returning, we'll say, in the Premier League, and I know it's, teams in Spain are back training. There's been a bit of controversy around it. How do they monitor it? How do you go back into a training from going from, nothing in a big pandemic like this?
I think Wolves captain Conor Cody during the week done a very good interview on how that Wolves team are already back training. They're back at the training ground and they're in groups of 4 where they have an hour slot. The coaches will be there for the day. They'll monitor the sessions, and they're not even allowed into the changing rooms. They're not allowed to shower in the grounds. They're not even allowed to take equipment. They have to bring their own balls. They have to bring their own cones. So it's obviously a very challenging time for the players.
Right.
But in saying that, it's the safest thing to do. And I think Jamie Carragher also had his view on it, that these professional footballers aren't going back into frontline work. They're not going to be in hospitals. These are going to be in probably the safest environments where they're tested twice a week, if not more, in order to play. So
to bring you in on that one there, Gary, about being tested. I saw during the week, we'll say, where in the Irish, we'll say, regards the Irish League and the FAI getting back playing, we'll say, in the league here in Ireland, I saw that 88% of players were in favour of being tested weekly if it meant that they could go back training and playing in the league here. So
yeah, I think the League of Ireland, especially, I think it relies massively on gate money for the clubs, and obviously Sligo Rovers being very close to home, they've let all their players go for the minute, but like gate money for them is a huge, like, financial. Probably it's essential. Really.
You might say that that's the driving force behind it all. We'll say the finances in big clubs and TV money and stuff. Have you might have a bit to come in on that one? Yeah,
like I think the TV money in Ireland probably is not near as big as over in England. Like I think it's an estimated $5 billion a year over a 3-year period for the likes of the Premier League clubs. So even if these leagues weren't to go ahead, these clubs would have to pay the money back, which would then leave them in serious financial difficulty. Like teams like Brighton, Aston Villa, Norwich City, them teams need the TV money to survive, and if they were to having to pay back 50, 60 million, it would leave them in serious financial difficulty and probably
devastating.
Could lead to obviously devastating effects.
But you see, I'd say with a lot of these big kind of clubs and stuff, it's kind of actually interesting, I think, to make a comparison between, even we'll say at this professional level, everybody's in the same boat and that nobody can be doing much at the minute. Everybody's kind of, operating from, we'll say, Zoom calls. I saw Ben Foster there, trying to Waterford watt bike sessions with his teammates and stuff. It's pretty much kind of what the GA players are doing here. So you have elite athletes and even club athletes, we'll say, here in Ireland playing at club levels. Everybody seems to be on the same page. There, I might bring Wayne in on just while we have the chances. Just it's a double-edged sword in that there's also the fact that players are at home, kind of locked up. They're going to be itching to get back training. Even just Wayne yourself, as a perspective of a coach and somebody who's, we'll say, highly trained in dealing with, we'll say, young lads in training and monitoring teams. How do you go about monitoring these lads, we'll say, mental health and their well-being?
Yeah, I suppose it's a difficult one, Shucks, and I suppose it's very uncharted territory for everyone these days. I suppose, like Jimmy as well, they have a plan in place that they're trying out, and I myself have one as well, and I suppose, look, we're hoping it's going to work and hoping it's going to give benefit to our players. I suppose everybody with sport, look, everybody gets a bit of enjoyment, be it through participation or just entertainment alone. Mm-hmm. I suppose myself, this year I've been involved with a couple of teams. If I just give you an example, I was with the UL Freshers team, and I suppose they did very well and managed to get to the final, only for the final to be cancelled on the day of the lockdown in universities. Uh-huh. So I think this was probably a very difficult time for them. It was a bit up in the heap, and whether they'd ever get the chance to play that. I suppose Freshers is a competition you only get that one shot at in university. So I suppose that's a difficult one to manage. And I suppose as a management group in that scenario, we're still hopeful that that game can be played. And I suppose we're trying to keep in constant contact with the players, trying to keep them focused and training themselves. Mm-hmm. Another team that I was involved with this year, which is kind of, I suppose, on pause to a certain extent at the moment, would be a club team within East Cork. So what we've kind of decided to do is a bit like Jim, put a bit of a plan in place. So what we are doing at the moment is getting together twice a week over Zoom, and we are conducting circuit training sessions. The feedback so far from it is that it's going well. Yeah. Players are enjoying the get together. They're enjoying the aspect of getting that sense of team and that bond and community back together again. That is something that's very strong within the GA as a whole, and every other sporting code as well. Yeah. Like, it's probably quite difficult for the guy to train on his own when he has been used to training within that team scenario. You know, you constantly have somebody supporting you and driving you on and motivating you on a 2-3 nights a week basis. And now that's gone, it's quite difficult to live with. So we find that the Zoom sessions are kind of working to our benefit at the moment.
And things like that, Wayne, I suppose another thing you're seeing is, we'll say, teams like this, taking a break now that they have their break from sport to do a bit, we'll say, charity work. they're using their sports to, you know, raise money for charities, which is great to see. I know I saw during the week the Limerick senior hurlers and under 20 hurlers are doing a kind of a hit the wall challenge for Milford Hospice Care. There's all sorts of kind of things popping up. That's great, I suppose, for young lads to even just take a break from their sport and you know, even running 5Ks and things for charity, I suppose.
It's brilliant, yeah. And like, I suppose GA players, they're very humble people, and coaches and managers as well. Like, and we realise how much the community supports these players when they go out to perform on a weekly basis each year for championship.
Yeah.
And I think it's very nice for everyone to be able to give something back to their own individual community. Like, shows that sense of camaraderie, you know, help for each other. And that there's always a bigger issue out there, like, you know. And at the moment, we're living in such a difficult time that we have to be quite considerate of other things that are going on. And if, as a sporting club, team or community, we can give something back, that's even better again.
100%. I think even, Gary, I know you were eager to make a point as well about, we'll say, Harry Kane in there. And just in similar like that, Harry Kane is kind of doing something similar.
Yeah, Harry Kane is sponsoring Leighton Orient's home and away kit for next year.
Yeah.
Raising awareness for the frontline workers, which is a unbelievable gesture. And even the likes of the Premier League captains have set up funds for frontline workers too. Like, so there has been a lot of good gestures coming out of probably an overall bad situation. And the Premier League players, I know some of them have gotten a lot of stick for not taking wage cuts if we look at some of the Arsenal players, but essentially, like, they are raising funds, they are giving it their best shot.
Yeah.
You know, for like the situation they're in. Like, it's not easy for anybody.
There does seem to be that
amateurs, professionals. Yeah.
There seems to be that general feeling there, though, that, you know, people are beginning to come to that stage now where they're really beginning to, you know, get the bug to get back playing and the bug to get back training on a kind of a wide phrase. I'll just let you have the final word there again, Wayne, on why you think we'll say that's, you know, so important for young lads now that they keep active and get themselves going again.
Yeah, look, mental health is I suppose it's been in the limelight for the last number of years in Ireland in general. But I suppose there's such increased research now into the link between the benefits of sport and what kind of an impact that can have on the body and the mind. There's numerous articles that are, you know, suggesting the endorphins that are released through sport are so beneficial, and the exercises, you know, that people can do on their own, not just as part of a team or in an individual sporting capacity, but just general exercise, like how that can help with anxiety and stress. And these are very stressful times we're living in. So I suppose if we could give any advice, it would be to try and get in as much exercise you can on a daily basis. Like, I mean, if it's just going for a walk, to a run, to a cycle, like all these things can have such a positive impact on every individual, you know.
That's a lovely point to finish on, I think, as well, is just, you know, for people to keep on top of it, because, you know, we're the end is nigh, as they say. We're beginning to kind of move again, and I suppose I think we're all looking forward really to getting the show on the road again and seeing our sports that we love take off. So fingers crossed things will go that way. I think I'm going to draw the line under it there, bring the first part of the show to a conclusion. Coming up next, first of all, in the coming weeks, the next slot in the coming weeks will be used as an interview slot. So where we hope to have, well, we have lined up some big sporting names to come in, join us in our discussions. This week, however, we're going to travel back to a former moment of sport. So we're going to bring it back to Augusta National in 2019. We don't have too far to travel, lads. To Tiger Woods, switching the code to golf. One of the most epic comebacks, I suppose, ever in sport. His own story. I'm going to pass it over again, I think, to Wayne there, who's just going to give us a brief introduction of that story and Tiger Woods' epic comeback in 2019.
Yeah, look, Tiger Woods, I suppose one of the most influential sporting stars within his field and most renowned sporting stars globally, I suppose. I suppose his record speaks for himself. Just a few of them that come off the top of the mind. Look, Tiger Woods is after winning the Masters 5 times. He's 4-time PGA Championship winner. Like, they'll be right up there with some of the greatest achievements in any sporting context. He became the youngest player at the age of 24, I think, to win the Grand Slam in golf, when he won the British Open. So, I mean, like Tiger Woods is a phenomenal player. What occurred in 2019, winning that Masters, I think, was it 14 years since his last victory in it? Like, I mean, another record, which is very hard to believe that in the course of 14 years, you can come back to the top of your game again.
Especially given how far
I think Garry has a bit there on kind of what happened in between, really, you know, in 14 years.
I think, like, it was an unbelievable moment, like, from all his personal issues, and obviously he's run-ins with the law and stuff like that, but to go from 58 in the world back all the way to number 3 in the world, I think he came in after the Masters. It just shows you his mental strength to be able to get back on the course, start playing good golf again. He had a lot of injuries. I believe I think he's had 5 knee surgeries and 4 back surgeries. So, like, that's a long road back. It's mentally draining, probably, like, the amount of rehab. I think we all know from probably injuries ourselves, like, a couple of months off playing sports is quite tough, and never mind surgery after surgery. So what he done in Augusta in 2019 was probably, in my view, important comeback of all times, just with everything that went on in his own life, and to be able to refocus, I think he took a year off and came back in and won the Masters.
Given, we'll say, a spell you were going on there about the kind of the effect injuries can have on players, how often do we see a player who has so much potential, their career being tarnished because of injuries? But I think it just shows the true mind of, we'll say, a competitor, or the mindset of a competitor like Woods, that he is the best in the business to be able to come from that. I might tie in Jimmy there, even if you just wanted to speak on that for a bit.
Yeah, I suppose the attitude, the application that you have to show coming back from injury is, absolutely massive. But Garry just, spoke about the injuries he's had, from knee surgeries to back surgeries, and like they're not just career-ending injuries. They're, at the end of the day, you want to be able to go back and do your daily life. You want to be able to get up in the morning, not be in pain. You want to be able to, enjoy life, like when you finish your sporting career. And like for him to make such a transition of having those surgeries to getting the rehab done, but going back to win the Masters in 2019, it was just an unbelievable achievement. And like, when you think of athletes like that, like I think back to 2 NFL players, Peyton Manning, with say, and Tom Brady. Like they're 2 players as well that suffered career-ending injuries. Like Manning has had a serious neck injury. He has bones fused in the neck, and he went back to win the Super Bowl with the Broncos before he finished up. And I know in 2009, Brady had tore the ACL and the MCL. 2 serious injuries there, but again, the resolve and the resilience they show to get back and to play at the highest level, to go on and win Super Bowls. And Woods is just an amazing athlete, and anyone that's at the top of their game, they're there for a reason, and it's down to the attitude and application and the work they put in.
I suppose, given his story and given, we'll say, how many injuries and how much suffering he put into it, I suppose that accounts for the outburst of emotion we saw when Woods did win. You saw a very emotional picture there of him celebrating with his kids and, roaring. Very unlike Tiger Woods, the Tiger Woods of old, who was very serious and shows very little emotion. I think what you were seeing there is, we'll say, all the emotion and suffering he had pent up kind of coming out in one big burst.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And I suppose it's that, it's that 30 seconds, Shucks, that you train for after you win a game, after you win a championship, after you win an All-Ireland, after he wins the Open, after he wins the Masters. It's that 30 seconds of elation. If you could bottle that feeling, geez, you'd be a millionaire. It's so hard to earn that. So hard.
You might want to come in on that one, Wayne.
Yeah, I suppose the other comparison, and you'd have to kind of look at it, is like golf is an individual sport. Like, I think the 4 of us are familiar with that team sport, and like somebody can have an off day, but Jimmy is right. Like, I mean, when you're at the top of the game, like, and you're out in that golf course, like, and if you're coming down the back nine and there's only one or two shots in it, like, and you're on your own, like, it's how strong mentally are you for that moment, isn't it? And you know, being able to finish it and put it away, like, it must be one of the greatest feelings as a golfer.
Could you imagine that's how Lowry felt above in Donegal? I'd say that was unbelievable.
Yeah.
One of the all.
I think the big thing I find remarkable about Tiger Woods is he's done it over 20 years. He's been there, like, he has been golf for a long period of time. Like, he has been the man, and he's like, and then to obviously fall away and to have that resolve to come back is, I'd say, there isn't many individual sports that could possibly do what he done. Like,
so I suppose the true mark of a champion.
How you feel about that?
Yeah, there
was a lot of controversy too, Gar, wasn't there? Like, I mean, do you know, it wasn't all about the highs, like.
A lot of people, like, wrote him off, said he's finished, like, yeah, because of his injuries and the severity of them. I think he was pretty much, like, written off.
Absolutely, like, he was written off. Like, he had so many distractions. You know, he will, you know, as you said there, Wayne, like, golf is a one man show. Like, you know what I mean? You have to get yourself ready. You know, you can't have distractions. You can't have things playing on your mind. And, like, for him to come back from the injuries, from him to come back from the things that he had going on in his personal life, absolutely massive achievement.
Yeah.
Just going to come in on that one there myself. I think we'll say about the mental side of golf. I remember watching a reporter one time, you know, being asked, will we ever see Tiger Woods back the way he was? And, you know, it was a laughing stock at the time. You know, anybody in the knowledge was going, you will not see the Tiger Woods of old back. Mark my words, he's not going to win another major. He's finished. I think it shows the true sign of a champion when you can fall as far as he did, down to number 58, I think it was, in the world, and to climb all the way back up again and win the Masters in 2019. I can't even begin to imagine the mental strength that takes, because golf already requires a lot of patience and strength. But to build yourself back up like that must have taken, you know, months and months of mental preparation as well as practice to get the confidence back. And, you know, especially even, I'm just going to tie it in there as well, when you think of big, we'll say, sports, you think, you know, basketball, Michael Jordan. Tiger Woods is basically the same to golf, where he transformed the sport. I remember being a young fella growing up, you know, I took up golf because of Tiger Woods. You know, Tig is my own name, so you're kind of going Tiger. You know, he's the role model. He's the figure. Like, I'm no Tiger Woods now. I'm terrible at golf. I spend more time looking for golf balls than I do hitting them. But, you know, he's a great kind of a role model. He's what kids grow up wanting them to, you know, take up the sport of golf.
Jordan did the same for basketball, to be fair, you know.
Massive.
I think there's always an athlete that defines a sport. Like, I suppose you can look at boxing with Ali as well. Like, you know. Yeah. Like, there's always one of them couple of icons that you have within the sport that make it stand out. You 100%. Probably think of, when you think of soccer, you probably think of Pele, Maradona, now Messi and Ronaldo.
Yeah.
So I think, like, so Tiger Woods he kind of pushed that golf on to the next level, I think, especially for our age group of,
you know, this is what you would call the ultimate comeback story. So on that, Gary, I'm just going to draw you out a bit more. We'll say other good sporting comebacks. Everybody loves them. Everybody loves a good sporting comeback. You know, is this the greatest of all time, or what? How, you know, how does it compare to other sports? We'll say soccer. There, I know you had a couple of ideas on good sporting comebacks.
I think a sporting comeback for drama alone, I'd have to say, it kills me to say it, but Man City's comeback against QPR to win their first Premier League, I think that's like absolutely an amazing moment. Like, the fact they were 1-0 down or 2-0 down, I think, or 2-1 down.
The drama of it all, yeah.
Yeah, and to come back and score 2 goals in injury time to win the Premier League on goal difference, I believe, is unbelievable. Like, absolutely unbelievable. Right. I think, with sporting comebacks, yes, I think Tiger Woods. I think if we look a bit further and into more depth into the MMA world, I would say George St. Pierre from the UFC. He made a comeback. He retired, made a comeback 2-3 years after being out. Came back, won 2 division world championship and retired again. And he's now in the Hall of Fame this year. So that was a pretty unbelievable, like
a kind of a sporting comeback.
Quick, to hang up his gloves and make a comeback and his first fight to win another world title, like that's
remarkable.
There's some unbelievable
these are the kind of moments,
comebacks.
These are the kind of moments, I suppose, lads, that we can only reflect on now while we're waiting for things to kick off again and sport to resume. I've no doubt that we'll say Tiger Woods and his comeback is one of the best, if not the best, we'll say, sporting moments of all time. I'm going to move things on, lads. So fear not to our viewers if you've enjoyed this particular recap and look back. We have much more to come in the next section, I can assure you. After the break coming up, or in the next part of the final part of our show, we're going to release our inner Steven Spielbergs and share our thoughts on teams from the past. So stay with us, and thanks for joining us this far. So for the final part of the show, it really gives the Council of Gentlemen in front of me free rein to get their thinking caps on, I suppose. Gentlemen, the Netflix documentary The Last Dance has really caught the public eye and taken the world by storm in recent weeks. So the task that I put to, we'll say, the Knights of the Round Table here in front of me was I asked if they could if you could tap into, we'll say, the funding, lads, that Dublin GA County Board receive. And you could steal some of that, because I'm sure they don't need all of it. They have plenty to spare. If you could take that money and you could fund a documentary from, we'll say, based on any team from any era, what team, first of all, would you pick? And what character would assume that kind of alpha male role of, we'll say, Michael Jordan, so to speak? I think I'll start, I suppose, with Jimmy again. Jimmy, who have you gone for on this one?
Shucks, I tell you, there's one team for me that I would have loved to have seen a documentary of, and I basically thought long and hard about the team and kind of what you put to it. So for me, it's the Clare team in the 90s. Like, unbelievable. I mean, Munster Championship Shucks at its best was in the 1990s. Like, some cracking games between Clare and Limerick, between Tip and Cork, different counties. But that Clare team of the 90s was just, they were really at their prime. And for me, if you were doing a documentary, it'd be on that team. I look, first of all, they lost the Munster final in 93 and 94. And Len Gaynor at Tipperary was over them. He brought them to 2 Munster finals. And in late 1994, the Messiah himself came in. The man they all love down there, Ger Loughnane. And Loughnane came in, and by God, did he turn it inside out.
Yeah.
He brought in Mike Mack and Tony Considine to train the team. Brought in a whole new fitness regime. Brought in a whole new thinking of how they wanted to do things. And I suppose the big thing for me is that in 93, 94, those Munster finals, they probably, they didn't play well, and there was a bit of a softness. The public perception was there was a bit of a softness there. But in 95, when Ger Loughnane came over that team, he put in a mental toughness in those players. Like the stories of them training in Shannon and Crusheen, Loughnane really wanted to steal the heads for that championship in 95.
Epic choice there. And who would you say then, Jim? Is Loughnane your kind of your main character in your documentary?
Loughnane would be the Phil Jackson, he'd be the main character, and I'd have to go with along with probably look to the likes of Anthony Daly. If you look at a Clare team that time, full of characters. Like Davy Fitzgerald, Brian Lohan, Sean McMahon, Anthony Daly, Ollie Baker, Jamesy O'Connor, PG O'Connell. Like, he played with the tash and the long hair.
The Dennis Rodman, he's your Dennis Rodman coming in. Great choice, Jimmy. Loving it. I'll move it on then to Wayne, because I know you've an interesting choice as well. Who have you gone for on this one, Wayne?
I do look, and I suppose it's not even because within that year, I suppose, Shooks, that the team got success or things like that, but I think it was a real turning point in Waterford's history. And I don't want to be seen here now that I'm favouring Waterford over other teams. But we're going to start the show off. I'm going to get my Waterford piece in there anyway, right? So 1998 would be the team I'm going to go with, Shooks. And I just think that year, again, Clare, Jimmy spoke about them there in the 90s. I think Waterford had 2 epic battles with Clare in 1998 in the Munster final. It went to a replay. I mean, anyone that can remember it, I can still remember it as a child, being sitting above in Semple Stadium, and it was just unbelievable. Like, I mean, to have a match where two fellas were sent off before the game even started, like, it'll probably go down in history, like, as one of the only games. Like, you know, I mean, there was a lot of aggression, there was a lot of skill. It was one of the hardest fought games I think Waterford probably ever came up against. And I think in 1996 we had just got Jordan McCarthy. And I know he was a Cork man, he was helping us out for them couple of years, like, and like, he just transformed Waterford for them couple of years, and things were looking good, and there seemed to be a great bunch of players kind of coming through. I mean, Michael Jordan, I suppose you kind of look at, would probably be Tony Brown from that year. I mean, he ended up getting Hurler of the Year that year. He was putting sideline cuts over from 65 and everything. Like, he was just phenomenal that year. We'd lost the replay in that Munster final. We got to the All-Ireland semi-final. It was against Jimmy's own Kilkenny, and we lost by a point. I really, like,
how you've been waiting to get that in all day. I can
still remember that game. Like, it was an awful day of hurling. Like,
yeah, I remember that.
It was terrible weather conditions. Like, Kilkenny had a very strong wind in the first half, and Waterford were down by 7 points. And Paul Flynn got a goal there, 25 metres out, I'd say he was, from the goal near the end. Like, and then I don't know. We just seemed to be coming back, and it actually looked like we might get a draw out of the game. But look, I don't want to be kind of like sound like sour grapes or anything, but there was a referee anyway, and there was 2 minutes of injury time, and he played 30 seconds shy, and we were on the rise. And I tell you, look, if that kind of came off, if we got the draw of that game, I think it would have been kind of a turning point or a catalyst in Waterford's All-Ireland glory quest again. Like,
you know, what's great, Wayne, is that after all these years, you're still not bitter about it anyway. You're not holding on to it.
No.
Very good.
Right, very good. Super. That's what you went for anyway, Wayne.
That's what I go for now.
Another great team of an era. I think, Gary, you're going to switch it up a bit. You've an interesting choice there for who you'd go for your ultimate sports documentary.
Well, I'm going to change it up a bit. I'm not going to be going down the hurling route. To be honest, I was caught now between two teams. The first team was the Leeds team of 01 that got to the Champions League semi-final. I think that would have the potential to be a great story. But the team I'm going to go with in the period is the Crazy Gang from Wimbledon in the mid-80s to the mid-90s.
Very good, yeah.
I just think that some of the stories and the eccentric behaviour of some of the players over that time, I think Gary Lineker described them, and he said about them, the best way to watch this Wimbledon team is on CFAX. So they obviously didn't play the best brand of football, but they were entertaining in their own right. I think the 87 season, I think they got something like 64 yellow cards and 5 red cards.
Oh my God!
And they were fined over 25,000 for just disciplinary stuff alone. And I think the main guys, I suppose, that you'd have to put the managers, Joe Kinnear. I think Wayne and Jimmy would definitely know enough about Joe Kinnear, and Dave Bassett and Bobby Gould. They were the 3 managers over that period.
Yeah.
I just think that story, they went from Division 4 to Division 1 in 4 seasons.
Incredible, yeah.
And then that rise, they obviously won the FA Cup in 1988 against Liverpool. Yeah. And then after that, then there was a massive demise. And some of the players like that came from that club, like obviously we mentioned Vinnie Jones, Dennis Wise, went on to have a great career at Chelsea, Nigel Winterburn, Laurie Sanchez. So like, I just think that would be an intriguing documentary.
Did you say you were in between 2 teams, or did you say?
Yeah, I was kind of the Leeds 2000-2001 season too. I fascinated by that team and how they managed to get to the Champions League semi-finals.
Yeah.
And the team they had, and it's just a pity they never progressed on, because
they were a huge team, yeah.
unbelievable team.
A lot of great players in that Leeds team, and
that was David O'Leary's team, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was David O'Leary's team, and like you had the likes of Alan Smith, Harry Kewell, Viduka, Lee Boyer, Ian Hare.
Epic personalities. Yeah.
That team was put together on not a massive budget, but like David O'Leary together an unbelievable team.
They were the team in England, I suppose.
Should have won a lot more.
Yeah.
And I think it was sad. It would be nice to see Leeds back in the Premier League next year. Hopefully if these games get played. But like the demise after Leeds too, like going down to League One for such a big club, I think that documentary from when they're at their top to their demise would be actually
kind
very,
of like
very
a Sunderland till I die kind of effect, basically.
Yeah, I think that like you have to feel sorry for the Sunderland supporters too after watching that documentary. Like they come out to every single game, and some of the stuff they have to put up with, like them two cowboys in charge. Like,
I'm gonna switch it up once again and bring in my own one here. So I'm switching sports to rugby. Because I remember when I was younger going to a couple of these games. So I've gone for the infamous Munster rugby team, we'll say, from the 2006 to the 2008 period. So they won the first Heineken Cup, we'll say, in 2006, and the second one then was in 2008. Reason being, I've gone for this. As my documentary, you had some huge personalities in there, bringing in leaders like, Paul O'Connell, we'll say, Ronan O'Gara at 10 there, Jerry Flannery, all these kind of lads. Even just you had, we'll say, players in from like New Zealand and stuff who were great characters. They had a great look about them. Take even Doug Howlett there. I mean, he brought the kind of the no haircut quarantine fashion. He brought that into style before it was even a thing, and you see everybody wearing it around now. A big old kind of an afro on him. And you were looking at these lads, idolising them as a young age. I thought, obviously, as well, just like the controversy side of it from the Bulls. I know there was a big controversy at the time, we'll say, of the crowd's favourite, we'll say, Peter Stringer was dropped for Tomás O'Leary. And I think that was a big, news bulletin at the time that Stringer was gone, because he had obviously been such a, such a cert, one of the first names down the sheet for so long. And that was a huge controversy in 08. So things weren't all hunky-dory in the second year that they won it either. I think then, as regards my kind of my central character, my Jordan, so to speak, I had a bit of crack at this one. I went for an unusual one that you might kind of think yourselves in Tadhg O'Siochrú. The reason being, I was saying, if you could have gone back to the 06 or 08 and taken a young, handsome Dermot O'Callaghan and thrown him out to Love Island or one of these TV series, you like Greg O'Shea.
I think John Hayes might have been more suited to Love Island show.
Yeah, not fair wrong. I think his
personality and his probably way with the ladies. I think
the Irish mothers at the time anyway.
I think John Hayes might be the man for Love Island anyway.
Like Greg O'Shea will say winning it for the Irish rugby sevens player winning Love Island. I'd say Donncha O'Callaghan would have been a search to come back with the 50k. So anyway, he's gone into media eventually. He didn't go the Love Island route, but he's gone into media. He's working with Sky at the minute. So I thought that'd be an interesting take on it. And I said,
you never know, Shucks, we might get him on this show one day.
Yeah, you never know. If play our cards right, Jim. If he's seen this, if you're out there watching us, we're not quite Love Island, but
I think that Munster team around that time were exceptional. I was actually at the 2008 final, and just the experience. There must have been 40,000 people from Munster over at it, and just that team, I think in the early noughties, they came up short a couple of times, and obviously we had the Neil Back situation that didn't go down too well. And then to come back, we talked about mental strength of teams and individuals earlier on in the show. But I think that Munster team too, to be able to bounce back and come back and win 2 Heineken Cups after falling short a couple of times before is quite a story too. Like, because some of the guys, like the likes of O'Gara and Stringer, they were there for a long, long time, and they put up with an awful lot of.
Even think of people like Axel Foley there, who were, by 2008 comes, he's, we'll say, on the bench. I mean, he's a huge, huge player to have, kind of in a locker room.
Yeah, I just think they were filled with like the leaders, like even the likes of David Wallace, that wouldn't have been he wouldn't have been a very much outspoken kind of a player, but I think he done his talking on the pitch, and they had the likes of O'Connell, they had even Howlett coming over from New Zealand was at the time was a huge
addition.
Huge addition. Like, you know, Doug Howlett, he was like, I think he was, at the time he came over, he was the top scorer in Super Rugby.
Yeah.
So like, to get guys in like that, I think that team.
He had an incredible final.
Could well have been one.
It showed our intent, I think, didn't it, during them few years, like that they were really going to push for glory, like.
Yeah.
I think that, and even just some of the games, like obviously when they bet Toulouse in the final. From what I remember of the day, I think they always seemed in control of the game. I don't think there was ever in the stadium. I don't think there was ever a case of they mightn't win this game. I just think, and I think from 2006 was their first one against Biarritz. I think that was kind of the benchmark then. I think after that, then
I think
they really pushed on as a team.
That was an almost kind of a magic time for the people in Munster at the time, and that they were, you know, really hitting kind of for the first time really, where Munster were really coming to the forefront. And that's kind of where I was going with this team. They were a magic team. In fact, so many big characters. 2 Heineken Cups. I'd call my documentary, will say, drunk after 2 Heinekens, because the people of Munster were just absolutely absorbed at rugby at the time, and loving it. And you know, you'd hope that I know it's beginning to come back. You'd hope Munster rugby can really take off again, because they were golden years.
Yeah, I do think Munster rugby are in quite a good place at the moment. I do think they have a lot of young guys coming up, and they have a good bit of experience there. I do think Munster rugby will be back, and will be a force in the next kind of period when we do get back playing. But I do think Munster in a very, very good place at the moment now, and I hopefully between them and Connacht now kind of knock Leinster off their perch a little bit.
Fingers crossed. Well, I think we're drawn near to the end of our first ever show, guys. So if the listeners have made it this far and they're still with us, we'd like to thank them. We're obviously doing something right. It's of course a new show, so we'd like to hear obviously feedback from you, the viewers. If you'd like to drop a comment or just get in contact with the page, let us know even what golden teams from past eras you'd go for, who you'd have in your teams. We'd love to hear suggestions for coming weeks. As we mentioned at the start of the show, I suppose we're 4 enthusiastic lads, very ambitious for what we can do. We have some great people lined up to come and join us in the coming weeks. So please stay tuned. Subscribe to the LiR account if you haven't yet. And I suppose I'll just pass it over to the lads if they have any finishing statements before we call the show a day. Any final word, lads? Right.
No, the only other thing I'd add to what the boys said, look, it's a difficult time, and there is no live sport at the moment, but hopefully we'll bring some little bit of entertainment and little flashbacks, moments of maybe a little insight into what our thoughts and opinions are on certain sporting aspects, down through the years.
I think that's our vision. Our vision at the moment really is just to give a show where we can talk about everything sport, give the people, because there is no sport at the minute, give the people a little bit of sport. Talk about either former moments of the future, anything we can at all to do with the sport. So do get in contact with the page. As they say, Tu Smach Latna Hibra. So I'd like to thank everybody for joining us on our first episode. From all of us here at LiR Media and the extended panel, we're wishing you well. Stay safe, and we look forward to hearing from you and seeing you next week for another episode of the extended panel. Slán live. Gary, and leave out a bit about the rugby.
I was looking down to see could I bring and I just seen 2009 and I was like we'll reintroduce that again.
The LiR Sports Team presents Sportsline each Saturday and Sunday from 6 p.m. Wherever you are, we're here.